Hello, humane marketers. Sarah Znakrocha here. Welcome to another episode of the Humane Marketing Podcast, a place to be for the generation of marketers who cares. This is the show where we talk about marketing your business in a way that feels good to you, is aligned with your values, and also resonates more with your conscious customers because it's not pushy, ethical, and also beautiful. So if you're a regular here, you know that I'm organizing the conversations around the 7 Ps of humane marketing. And if you're new here and this is your first time, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. You may want to download your one-page marketing plan with the 7 Ps of humane marketing in the form of a mandala at humane.marketing/one page, the number one and page. So again, humane.marketing/one page. And with that, with no further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hi, Cassie. So good to speak to you today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have this conversation. I've had a lot of these swaps, where I'm on a podcast and then we exchange and you are now on mine. And it's just such a great way of doing things, because once you feel like, okay, I found somebody that I'm really aligned with, why not, help each other out? And instead of accepting one of these pitches, you're like, it doesn't really feel like a good fit. So yeah, super excited to have you here. And of course, we'll link to the episode on your podcast as well. So excited to have you here and talk about social media. And it's funny because I'm just preparing an encore of a workshop called Grow Your Business Without Social Media. And so
I've been seeing that.
Yeah, so of course, this is great to have you here to talk about social media, but I think a very different approach to social media, right? So you call yourself also a digital minimalist. So we're definitely going to dive into that. But maybe first tell us a little bit how you are different compared to, the traditional social media strategist.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is I help people be on social media less. And I think as a social media strategist, people are always a bit confused about that. But what I kind of like about my work is I understand the good and the bad from having worked in it. I've been in this industry for over 8 years working on strategies for businesses. And I feel that there is so much potential with technology and social media, but I obviously understand the harm. So I come at it by saying, okay, if I know the intricacies of strategies for businesses for social media, how can I help you do it in a way that works for you and your well-being as well? Because I've previously, when I was in this industry before, I kind of helped people be on social media less. I was very much in the field of, okay, I know how to make a successful social media strategy. Here's the formula, let's go, let's do it. And I was just seeing a lot of my clients and business friends and everything just get really overwhelmed with that and burnt out. And it's a lot of content, a lot of rules of, show up, be consistent, all these kind of things. And yeah, now I help people still have a successful business, but in a way that works for them. So I kind of think of myself like on a mission to help people, business owners or personal brands or founders, be more intentional with their time online, because I truly, 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 truly believe that you can be present on social media and in real life. Like that's kind of a mantra that I do kind of live by. So yeah, so I create social media strategies, but I also incorporate digital well-being into that. So we get results, but you're also intentional with your time online and you have a healthier relationship with your phone as well.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so needed, I think. I think we're reaching some kind of tipping point. That's why that's what I noticed with putting out this podcast. And that's why I'm sorry, the workshop to grow your business without social media. And that's why I'm doing an encore, because there was a lot of interest. People are like, we're tired of constantly having to create content, constantly being there, commenting and replying to messages and things like that. So I think we're reaching this tipping point where we're like, okay, yeah, it's here to stay. We got to somehow learn how to, do business with it. Maybe I'm still putting a maybe next to that, because maybe you can grow a business without it. But for those who are actually like, okay, I like it, it's not like I don't like it, but in a healthy way. And I love that you're offering that to your clients. You also talk about digital minimalism on your website, and that you kind of build the social media strategy on the basis of these principles of digital minimalism. So tell us a bit more about it. I haven't in a while, but I've been listening in the past to the Digital Minimalist podcast, or can't remember, two guys in the US who were like, they called themselves the minimalists, I think.
Yeah.
And you know who I'm talking about. And yeah, definitely fascinated by that movement. Can't say that I'm following it exactly, but I do like the idea. And one of my favorite business books is Essentialism, which is kind of similar. It's like you just do the things that are essential. So tell us more about these principles of digital minimalism.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing as that, like, so I first came across this a few years ago when I read the book Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, and it's a fantastic book and I highly, highly recommend it. But what I got frustrated with is Cal Newport is a very accomplished, amazing academic, but he's also someone who's never had a social media platform in his life. He goes on them occasionally for research, but as a user, he's never had one. And so the book, the philosophy behind it is fantastic. I've got a quote which I'll say, which is from the book itself, of what Cal defines as digital minimalism, which is a philosophy of technology usage in which you focus your online time on a small number of selected and optimized activities that strongly support the things you value, and then happily miss out on everything else. And that sounds great. I know for you and I were like, yes, that sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
But what was quite frustrating was it kind of leaves out the benefits of technology and social media and what it can do, whether that is connection, community, support, creativity, all the things that you're able to do, whether it's make a living, express yourself, find like-minded people. And it was very much okay, have a digital detox, change the notifications on your phone, all absolutely valid and essential things to protect your well-being, of course. But I was like, well, where does this leave business owners? We can't just, well, I'm going to get rid of Instagram for 6 months. I mean, you can, but on the whole, when you're looking at an actual practical framework to market your business, it didn't really apply. It was more for people who are not running their business. So with that, I was like, right, okay, there must be something that I can learn from this philosophy, take things out of it and adapt it for businesses. And that's what I've been working on for the last few years. So my work helps you do exactly what the definition is, which is to use technology to support the things you value and miss out on everything else. So I help businesses be intentional with their time online, streamline and simplify their social media strategy so that it just focuses on the small number of activities that essentially give them the best return on their investment. So the whole goal is to improve their business and their well-being. So we essentially are minimalists for their marketing. That's what I do, is help them declutter that, prioritize, streamline, and focus. But there are processes they have to do in order to accept that what they're going to miss out on, because that is a big thing of like, how are we going to prioritize? How are we going to determine what to take out, what to focus on? And the way that I work that, the kind of framework that I work on, is we merge your business goals, your lifestyle goals, and your social media goals. And we put all them together, because what I found is that a sustainable social media strategy, you can't have one if it goes against your lifestyle and your enjoyment of things. Because the one biggest concern people have is, I can't be consistent, or I have to show up today, and then you realize I haven't posted in a while, and I'm thinking, okay, if these are the common issues people are having, what is the friction there? Why is there a barrier? And that is because it's not in line with their enjoyment, their skills, their strength, their lifestyle goals.
I'm going
So
to pause you there, Cassie, because I want to go into that.
go for it.
But I also want to just kind of go back to Cal Newport and his work and kind of this, the theory of, digital minimalism. And then actually the practicality, if you're starting out as a small business owner right now, what always kind of bothers me a little bit is when these accomplished people say, oh, I have a business and I don't use social media. I don't even check my email. They have a big team who, sometimes even the team is on social media, and so they manage it for them. Or maybe, okay, they're not at all on social media, but they have such a status already of fame that they can be on these big podcasts, and they have a book who's selling thousands of copies, things like that. And so it's always, to me, sounds kind of phony when they're saying, oh, I don't need, please don't use social media. You're like, yeah, but how did you get to that point? Nowadays it's a good tool to help you grow to a certain level in business. Just curious what you think about that.
I'm like 100% on the same page. And I've listened to so many of these like very intriguing podcast titles of like quit social media, or you don't need social media. And there's always someone who's got 3 books under their belt, or, such a huge platform already where they are going on the biggest podcast ever, and even being on TV, and they've got such a profile, or they're writing for the New York Times. And it's like, fantastic, but I can't relate to you. Like it's aspirational, absolutely, but it's not practical. So I'm 100%, feel exactly the same with that. And that's the reality, isn't it? Those people, I have yet to meet people who are not at that stage, who say that you don't need social media at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, would love for you to join the workshop, because the co-host that I'm doing that with is with Guy, who's in the UK, and she actually says, no, I built my business without social media. And so I feel like, okay, it's great to bring someone on like that who's like, no, there is, and fairly enough, there's been a time where we didn't have social media, and I'm sure people build businesses all the time. But I agree with you, now that we're in this age and all these tools exist, why not learn to use them in a healthy way, right? So let's go back to what you were talking about, the lifestyle, the goals. And then what I kind of heard you say is like, well, what we first need to work on is your definition of success, right? Because that's another thing we are being fed on social media as well, and maybe from other people that we listen to, is like, well, we have to have a certain business, and so maybe it's time to actually look at that. So tell us how you work with your clients on that definition of success.
Yeah, that bit is always the first piece of work, because if our goal is to remove things as we're building a strategy and to completely minimize what we're working on, you need to know what you're working towards. And often I've had situations in the past where people have ideas of what their lifestyle wants to be, what their business wants to be, and what they want to do on social media, and they don't align. I remember one of the catalysts for me changing this was I was working with a lady who, she wanted community. She was all about community, and I was like, fantastic goal. Okay, right. And we dug into deeper as to what that meant and everything. But essentially, she's like, I just want to thrive in community. So she's like, they're talking about Facebook groups, talking about the interactions she was going to have, and all these things. And then we looked at what her business goal was and what her lifestyle goal was. And when I talk about lifestyle goals, I'm talking about that may be financial, it might be time, it might be where you want to be spending your energy. There are different things. And this woman in particular, she really wanted to have a cutoff point when she was online, so that she was present for her kids' bath time and meal times with her family. She's like, I don't want it to be this thing where I'm getting notifications in the evening, where I'm checking my phone, where I'm answering things. I want to be very present for my kids and for my partner. I was like, fantastic. And then we dug into, okay, but if you want this community, what does that look like in reality? Like, what are the hours that are going to be dedicated to this? And she wasn't in a position to outsource this. And you cannot also argue that that's probably not the most authentic thing to do as well. So she was in a position where she realized, okay, I'm going to have to dedicate so much time to building this idea of a community that I wanted, and that is not in line with my lifestyle goals. So what would have happened had we pursued, had I ignored the lifestyle goals and just gone on to social media goals? It would have got to a point where she would not have continued to build that community because she wanted screen free time in the evening. Or even worse, she would have continued to build this community and sacrificed that time of being present with her family. And either one of them is not good. It's not sustainable, and it doesn't make you fulfilled and happy because it's at odds with your lifestyle goals. And because social media is 24/7 and it doesn't sleep, and because it's on your phone and it's all encompassing, like these are, I just can't see how you can't merge the two, because it does become part of your life. Especially as personal brands, we are sharing our lives, our thoughts, we're putting ourselves out there in a very visible way. So it needs to be in line with what your definition of success is, and that merges your lifestyle goals, your business goals, and your social media goals.
So what did you end up doing with this lady who, wanted both? She's like, I want the community, but I also want the cutoff point. What was
So
how did you do it?
I did to her what I do to everyone. Like, the way I see my work is, my job is not to tell you, okay, this is what you should do. My job is to inform you of, okay, this is your choice. If you were to build your definition of community as it is right now, because we did end up changing what her definition of community was, but initially I was like, if you want this version of your community, then you will have to work X amount of hours in order to see that come to light
Mm,
for the next however many months that would be. Or you could not have that, and you would have your time at home, and you would build this version of a community.
mm,
And then that is my job, because then it's up to the individual to choose what they want. Because everything, I really get frustrated when the marketers say that you can have it all. I was like, I just don't think that's very realistic. We only have so many hours in a day, so many skills that we have. Of course, we need to lean into them, but we need to prioritize. We need to compromise. We need to understand what is more important to me and how do I get there. Now, what we did end up with this lady is, we changed what that community looked like. It wasn't a full force, I want to grow it in this amount of months. It was a slow and steady build with fewer platforms. So it could have been so much more quicker, but we just adjusted what that goal was to make it fit into her lifestyle, which gave her some breathing space.
I love that. I love that you picked that story. We could have, because it could be me. It could be my story, right? The Humane Marketing Circle is the community that I know that's my thing that I want to grow. And yet, yeah, I don't want to spend hours and hours. And I also know that this kind of community is not the one where people just join because I'm constantly posting quotes on Facebook. So I had to also think about that. It's like, okay, this is going to be a slower growing community, but it's going to be fine because it's the thing that I'm going to do for the next 10 years. And so really it's scary in a way, right? Coming close to that, because all you hear everywhere, it's like scale fast, and how can you get 100 members in 3 months, and all. And so sitting there and going, okay, here's what I want, my lifestyle goals, and that then means that you have to kind of revisit your idea of success for your business goal. That's kind of like, yeah, it's not easy. And I can see the benefit of having a partner like you to talk through this and not be alone and go, why isn't this thing growing? Do I have to do more? And it's a constant battle of, do I put in more hours?
Mhm.
But would you also agree that it's not necessarily because you put in more hours on social media that you are going to get more members or more sales or clients or something?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not just the hours, it's the energy as well and how that drains you. So, yeah, part of my work as well goes into time, energy, boundaries, skills, strengths, all of these things, because the foundation of what I do is return on investment, and the investment is your time and energy. And if you're putting something in to something that really energizes you, that brings you joy, that you're good at and you really enjoy, then that is going to be a smaller investment with a greater return. But if you're putting your energy and time into something maybe your skills aren't aligned to, and you don't really enjoy it, that's going to be such a labor intensive investment to put in, and you're probably not going to see the result that you would like, as opposed when you're jumping into something with enthusiasm. So it's all about balancing that return on investment.
Yeah, I love that. On your site, you also say that you have a seasonal business, and we're in the middle of summer, and I also kind of work around the seasons, and summer is my favorite season, so I really make sure that I have lots of time off. You're just 1 week away from a big move as well. So does that also play into how you kind of built your business around the seasons and maybe also the location?
Yeah, yeah, we're moving to Borneo in a week, which is crazy. Yeah, so I built my seasonal business originally because I worked with a coach, and she helped me craft this, because I found that my husband's a teacher, and he would have these lovely long summers off, and summer is also my favorite season, and the sun's shining and you're locked in your dark office and you're like, oh my gosh. So he would come in and I'd be like, it's sunny out, do you want to come out? And I've got flexibility, I've got all this because I run my own business. But the reality is I still need to work, right? So I always had this like friction of either saying no to him or saying yes. And what I ended up doing is, okay, I've got immense privilege for being able to take that time off, but I would then work 12, 14-hour days afterwards to make up for it. And it just was just very all over the place. Sometimes I'd be out having a great time, then next day I'd be doing 12 hours. So I essentially set up the seasonal business I closed my coaching program to new clients over the summer, because I found that out of all my services, my 6 month and 3 month coaching programs are very energy intensive. As ever anyone knows who works with one-to-one clients on a long-term basis, it's you give a lot to them, and you're there for them throughout the whole time. And while existing clients and I have a relationship and they know how things work, and we're on a momentum here and it's fine, I found new clients it was a lot of input straight away in order to get them set up and be there for them and get them to fully understand how I work, how our systems work, and get the ball rolling. So I thought, well, that is actually probably the biggest piece of work that I do that is very energy draining. So if I
Mm.
could remove that, I am now doing a lot less work over the summer. And then the coaching clients I do have, they won't all carry on throughout the whole summer. Some contracts might end, in July or June or something, and then I wouldn't take any more on. So now I just do my VIP days or intensive when I feel like it, or when I need to pay the bills, or or when I feel like I want to do more work and I have the time. And that has allowed a lot more flexibility in the summer. So yeah, that's my seasonal business. And obviously it's a blessing now as I'm moving, because yeah, I've got a lot to do. So it's given me the space.
What about your social media? Do you maintain the presence over the summer? Because I chose basically to be present on LinkedIn and let go of all the other platforms. And yet I still, and I even, have 12 years of a LinkedIn consulting business behind me, but I still right now notice, since I have shifted my approach to social media, I feel like this kind of guilt or almost a bit of shame when I look at the reach of my posts, because obviously if you're not posting as often as maybe before, then the problem is, as the algorithms are like, we can kind of forget about her and she's not there anymore. So how do you deal with the algorithms, really? I think that's the question.
Yeah, I have the same thing as you, thoughts of you with that, and then again, it kind of what I did with that was again go back to my definition of success and priorities. And okay, my priority this summer is my my lifestyle. And again, I know that's a huge privilege, but that's what I chosen to prioritize. So when I do look at the posts I do post, they're not as good as previously, of course I feel the same. It does give a little sting in there, and you're like, oh, and because you know that, God, I know how to fix this. But I have to be like, no, this is not a priority right now. And I think as long as I keep that alignment for my definition of success, it kind of helps me sometimes. But in terms of that, what I do is I do try to pre-record podcasts. Therefore, I know that they're going to come out throughout the summer. And that means that's work that's already done. And I'm still going to be visible and increase my brand awareness throughout the summer when I'm not as present. And for my own content, I've massively scaled it down. The only thing that does not change is my own podcast. And that's because I enjoy it, but also it's still quite new. So I'm still getting that quite established. But everything else in terms of posting, I've scaled it right back. I will normally post once or twice a week, and one of them is a podcast episode. So in terms of original content, it might be once a week or it might not be. And I just go that way. And I'm a firm believer of working towards seasons and cycles when it comes to social media strategy. I've got many clients who they may want give me a schedule, like what, and I want to stick to that. That makes me feel calm, that makes me feel in control. But it's very, very unlikely not very often that I come across a client that will keep that schedule forever. Because what happens is life happens and their moods change, whether that's, for different reasons or anything, life happening or whatever, and their moods change. And I really encourage people to lean into that. If you feel that you want a break, take a break. Or if you feel that you've got more energy now and you're feeling really creative, then ramp that up. If you feel life's very overwhelming and you want to scale it back, scale it back. And I'm a big advocate for scaling back during the summer, because your users, your audience have scaled back, either because they're juggling kids now and work, or they're being pulled towards being outdoors versus here. Everyone's like being pulled in different directions in the summer, I feel. So and the data also shows that people are less engaged when the sun is shining. So I'm thinking, why not use it as an opportunity and take that time to scale back for yourself as well. Yeah, so that's kind of how I work in seasons with my own marketing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. The other thing you kind of talked about is this whole idea of content creation, right? That a lot of social media strategists talk about repurposing, and you have to have your content calendar. Yeah, this whole idea of having a month's worth of content ahead of time. I think we hear that message a lot. Is that also what you are suggesting to your clients? I heard you say, okay, scale it down in the summer, but what about the rest of the year? Is that still the message that we need to apply in social media?
Yeah, so honestly, it is dependent completely on the individual. I have some clients that want to feel more in control of it, and on the whole, I would recommend planning at least a fortnight in advance, just because you do want to move your clients through a journey. Like throughout the different seasons of your marketing calendar, you will have things that you want to promote. You will have times when you have a workshop going on, or you want to promote this one-to-one service, or whatever that is. Therefore, of course, the strategy behind that needs to align with that goal. And by not having something in advance, you're not able to take a step back and look at that holistically and go, am I actually moving people down that journey? So of course I would always advise that. But I think the thing that I always come back to as well is, if you don't enjoy this, if you're not feeling joy and passion for what you're creating, you're not going to do it. Therefore, if I get you to suck the life out of it, as you will, then you're not going to do it. I'd rather you do something than do nothing. So if you feel like that is becoming draining for you, that's prescriptive, this is the rules, this is how you do it, the guidelines of what you should be doing, throw that out the window just for 3-6 weeks, whatever that means, and lean into joy, because that is how you're going to be consistent. Consistency doesn't mean, it doesn't mean posting on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays every week. Consistency means just maintaining a visible presence, and that can fluctuate. But as long as you're maintaining a presence online, you are being consistent. And sometimes that may mean that you're posting once a week. Sometimes that means you're posting 4 times a week or whatever that is. But I really do believe that if you take away the joy, then you're not going to post at all. And that's even more damaging to your strategy long term.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I did notice myself, like during this summer, like most of the time I was looking at my LinkedIn feed and I'm like, I don't even want to talk business in the summer. I'm like, can I just talk about the different flavors of ice cream? And I guess I could have posted that, but I'm like, no, I just want to share that with my family and not post that on LinkedIn or any other platform. And so yeah, it's really also the moods change, right? It's
Mm.
like these fluctuations where it's like, no, I'm not in the business mood right now. So I'm so glad you're helping your clients respect that and say, yeah, it has to be joyful, because otherwise, yeah, you're not doing it at all. I have my virtual assistant Mara always help me with posting something personal on Mondays, because it is something that I, as a introvert, I'm like, it just doesn't come natural to me. But once I post it and take a picture or something, then I actually enjoy the interactions. And so I need that kind of extra reminder. She just kind of gives me this gentle nudge, and I'm like, okay, yeah. And then sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, I really don't feel like it. Just
Yeah. And that's okay. That's totally okay. And if you're leaning into that's how you're able to maintain visibility, right? Because you
yeah,
have lent
yeah,
into that a bit more.
yeah. Well, this has been really great. Any first steps for people who kind of want to get started on this road of digital minimalism with their social media? What would you recommend they do?
I'd really recommend reading the book by Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism. And like I said, it's not really created for businesses, but the philosophy behind it is really interesting. And then if you are just starting out, like the big question is always, how can I remove anything that's not supporting my definition of success? And in this context, we're talking about technology, specifically social media, but that can feel like a very big question. Like, gosh, okay, where do I start? To me, I would just start small, So, what platforms are not giving you that return on investment? And again, we're talking as the investment of energy and time, and the return is, the goals. Are you reaching those goals for what you're putting in? Now, if you feel like, no, it's not, and let's use LinkedIn as an example, you're putting all this time and energy into it, you're not seeing the return. Of course, you can remove it, and that is something that you should trial and maybe try it for 6 weeks, see how it goes. Try it for another 6 weeks, see how it goes. And then you can get a clearer picture. Is this really damaging my business or is it not? And
Yeah.
I can assure you that 6 weeks is not going to completely tarnish your business. So it's totally fine to experiment with that. But also, if you feel like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready for that big step of removing a platform, okay, can you change the way that you create content? So if you find that, writing is a big drain, it's not your skill set, it's not something that you enjoy. So therefore, writing articles for LinkedIn is becoming really heavy for you. Could you change it and go, I really enjoy conversations. I might do a live series or a video series, and that is easier for me to create. It's more joyful, and monitor the return on that. And it's just about balancing what you're putting in and what you're getting out. And it doesn't always have to mean taking something away, it's just changing it to something that is easier and less of an investment for you.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so good that you call it experiments, because I think that's exactly what it is. It's like, well, try it. I
Yeah.
did that with my podcast. Everybody says you have to have at least one episode per week. And I just noticed it became this factory of creating podcasts, and then I started accepting guests that I probably didn't align with 100%. And so I'm like, no, I need to give myself permission to just slow it down and only do 2 podcasts per month. And I did that, and then don't usually look at the numbers, but I thought, okay, it's been 6 months, let me look at the numbers. The numbers didn't change, like the
Wow.
downloads didn't change. And I was like, well, there you go. It was an experiment and it worked. And I bet you that, the same thing could happen on one of the social media platforms if you just say, let me experiment and pause this one and
Yeah,
see, because in the end, the reason you're doing it is for income, right? That's in the end what we're trying to measure here. And if that doesn't change anything, then and yes, I agree, it's always, take something off first, but then that frees up energy so that you can actually experiment with something else that gives you more joy. So,
100%.
yeah.
And by you changing up your podcast schedule, you made it sustainable,
Mhm.
because probably what have happened if you didn't change that schedule, you may have stopped doing it altogether.
Yeah, I
And
was
then that's a
getting
shame
bored of
'cause,
it.
yeah, you've
Yeah,
lost
yeah,
your
yeah.
podcast. But by changing it and then going, I'm going to lean into what feels better to me, I've managed to keep it going. And that is the win, because you're maintaining another platform that you enjoy and is bringing you return. So I feel like a lot of people do feel that paralysis of, it's like the sunk cost fallacy, right? I've put so much into it, I don't want to change it. But actually, you have to think of the sustainability of it. And by changing it, you will have more time to do it better, and yeah, really see the return on that.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much, Cassie.
Oh,
Do,
thank you for
do
having
you
me.
tell people where they can find you and yeah, how to connect with you?
Yeah, so my website is cassiewidders.co.uk, and you find me on LinkedIn, Cassie Widders, and Instagram the same as well. Yeah, and I have the podcast called the Social Self Podcast, where I have had Sarah on,
Mhm.
and we talk about how to be more intentional with your time online. But yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. I have one last question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what are you grateful for today or this week? It's an important week just before you move.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. So I think I'm grateful for choice, like the privilege of choice. That is something I really do live by, because it's not about, for me personally, it's not freedom or flexibility or anything. It's the choice to have that, the choice to work, the choice to work less, the choice to move, the choice to, and I'm moving to Borneo. And yeah, that's what I'm most grateful for, is that I have choice.
Wonderful. Yeah, I like choice too.
I think we all do.
And choosing to have you on the podcast versus, someone who's pitching me about how they built their six-figure business in 3 weeks. So yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
I think it would have hit the wrong note with you. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, stay in touch, okay? Thank you so much for being here.
thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for watching and being part of a generation of marketers who cares for yourself, for your clients, and for the planet. We really are change makers before we are marketers. So go ahead, be the change you want to see in the world. And I hope to see you again next week. Take care.